Let's go! LSU Run Fit Film Study Part 2. You guys saw this in Part 1. If you haven't watched Part 1, I highly recommend you do so. So this was a play from Part 1, and you're about to be shocked when I show you this. So today, in Part 2, we're going to break down the near exact same play from a year before, on the exact same hash, on the exact same yard line, 3 wide receivers to the right, Najee Harris to the right of Tua. Not too much is different other than basically everything on LSU side. With the 3-man front, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run this play. It is a run to the left. This is a formation again. And you see here, unlike the play you just saw, we're getting pulling guards. And it looks as if things are about to open up, but unlike what we saw from Andre Anthony yesterday, we were talking about 2-gapping. The guy who actually makes this play is K'Lavon Chaisson. After keeping this contained, he fought back inside and 2-gapped this. While keeping contained, he was able to fight back inside and make this tackle. And notice how well LSU was fighting here at the line of scrimmage. K'Lavon Chaisson makes this tackle right here, but because we get a really good push from 73 and Najee Harris is just absolutely freaking ridiculous, they were able to fall forward for a first down. But unlike the play you just saw, this is a lot better because, of course, it is not a touchdown. And here he is, actually doing a seminar with Texas high school football coaches. This was posted on YouTube, and I watched this full hour-long seminar. So what I'm going to do is not actually play the clips here from, and you actually hear Dave Aranda, because the terminology he's using is complex unless you watch the full hour. So I'm going to give you what I learned from it. As always, in the comment section, let me know if you guys agree or disagree. And I always say this as a disclaimer, I am not a film study beast by any stretch of the imagination. I'm still learning every single day how to evaluate film and everything like that. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to start here, right? A very similar play with LSU, and what Dave Aranda is teaching the people that are listening to the seminar is he likes to slant his defensive linemen. He does a lot of different things with his run fits to not make LSU predictable. And one thing that we kind of touched on in our film study yesterday is that LSU's run fits were very basic. They did not do a good job mixing things up, stemming, all these different terms you can use. It was just straight ahead. No slants. Outside of on pass rushing situations, LSU did do a good job mixing up some twists and some loops and some games up front. That's a big reason why LSU won the Florida game. But for the most part, their run fits were really straightforward. So what Dave Aranda is doing here is he's explaining something called a ram or a lion call. And basically, people have different terms for this. What ram means is we're just going to slant our defensive lineman to the right because the nub tight end, or the tight end with his hand in the ground, is to the left of the formation. LSU's run fits are doing, basically what Dave Aranda is doing is making an educated guess as to where the football is going. So what you're going to see here on the snap is all these LSU defensive linemen who are lined up. Obviously, this is a 4-eye technique. Rashard Lawrence, who is a beast. Glenn Logan, a big subject from yesterday's film study. You're going to see Glenn Logan really ball out in today's film study. And then here's Tyler Shelvin. And what you're going to see here is at the snap. See here, let's go ahead and run this at full speed. And you see Rashard Lawrence blows this up, as does Chaisson. Now, obviously, this is the Arkansas Razorbacks of 2019. Chad Morris was fired the week before this game. He is the worst coach in the history of the SEC. So this is one of the worst teams in the history of the SEC, going up against the best team in the history of the SEC, and going up against some NFL guys right here. So yeah, you factor in competition, but still watch in slow motion how Rashard Lawrence just blows this gap up. He's in this 4-eye, but then he just attacks this tight end and sits in this gap and just blows this play up. Boom! See that extension right there? See that? that step. Look at how violent these steps are, okay? And you see what this does is with this 3-4 front, when you occasionally slant these guys, when you think they're just going to go upfield, notice how much traffic there is for all these pulling guards. So this pulling right guard right here, even though the play that we did the film study on yesterday didn't feature any pulling guards, whenever you get these stacks and you occasionally slant these guys, notice all this traffic for these pulling guards. And we showed the Missouri play yesterday where Missouri's guards were just able to pull with no traffic whatsoever. Tyler Shelvin blowing this play up. And look at all this penetration we're getting. Glenn Logan doing a good job setting this edge on the backside of the formation just in case he were to peel this off. Really good stuff from Glenn. And we're just blowing this up. So you notice this ram call right here. One more time in slow motion. Boom. We're just blowing this up. Rashard Lawrence getting underneath, sitting heavy on this gap. What LSU did last season with their edge defenders is something called a wrong arm. And we touched on this yesterday. Wrong arm, kill and spill. And essentially what that means is what LSU's ends did last season versus pullers is they would go underneath it and force the running back to go to the outside. A lot of different defensive coaches like to do the opposite. Don Brown, one of the most famous line coaches ever, the coach at Penn State, does not like to wrong arm or kill and spill, which essentially means this edge goes underneath this puller and we're forcing this to bounce to the outside and make Stingley make the tackle. LSU does the opposite, blast this pulling guard here. Okay? Jason squeezing down this hole. We're getting good penetration here. And then watch him just destroy this puller. Boom. Okay? Sitting and squeezing this hole. You see that? Boom. Sits, and he's waiting. And there's just no room. And honestly, this back probably had a little hole, but because Rashard Lawrence blew this up, Stingley ready to fill on this run as well. Running back makes a bad cut. You're never going to beat Chase on to the outside. He's too fast, and it's a huge tackle for loss. So that was the ram call here, okay? And Dave Aranda said here that Tyler Shelvin didn't hear the ram call, which is we're slanting these guys to the right. You'll see it better here in just a second. Once again, 13:51, 0-0 is the score. And remember, this exact same formation resulted in a touchdown in yesterday's film study. And obviously, this run blocking is a little bit different. Okay, Dave Aranda is pointing out that Shelvin didn't hear the ram call. And Shelvin was actually turned inside right here by Dickerson. So the reason why you do a ram call here, especially against a good offensive line such as Alabama's, is obviously they are really good. And I mean really good. And this has been a staple of Nick Saban's offensive lines since those Barrett Jones years all the way up to now, is their offensive line is really good at turning guys inside to the play side gap. So the reason why you do these ram calls is we can beat those guys that are trying to turn us inside, because when you call a slant to this side of the formation, you're basically guessing that they're going to run to the left side of the formation, which makes a lot of sense because this is where the tight end is, otherwise known as the strong side of the formation. We're going to go ahead and run this thing, and the reason why it's weird is because Dave Aranda is doing his own rewinds here, and this is essentially what he's doing. This is how coaches break down film, because they're looking at every last little thing. Remember, in yesterday's film study, we showed you one very critical thing as to why that Bama play worked out so well, is that our linebackers were really flat-footed. I want you to notice one quick thing. You notice right when the snap, do you see how quick this is? And obviously Patrick Queen is special, but boom, he's ready to go. He's already knowing what he's doing, okay? Queen knows that he has to get over the top. He knows that our guy, Rashard Lawrence, is going to be holding a C gap. Chason is going to be keeping contained against this puller. I think Patrick Queen did a good job reading this pre-snap. I'll show you this really quickly just to give you a little bit of an idea. This left guard, you notice he's a little bit further behind the line of scrimmage. Okay? And what does that tell you? If he's further behind, he's probably pulling. Okay? So that's something that they probably noticed on the field, okay? And what Dave Aranda said is the Mike linebacker in this situation, of course, that's Patrick Queen, is yelling, ram, 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 which is essentially, we're firing into these gaps, okay? So let's get back to right here where we can actually see this play and go at our own pace, because obviously Dave Aranda is going at a way faster pace because he's Dave Aranda. So here's Glenn Logan in this 4-eye technique. Once again, Glenn Logan yesterday, not so great. Today, this is what we need from him next season. I hope we get 2019 Glenn Logan back. So Tyler Shelvin actually doesn't hear this ram call, but before we get into that, once again, this is just such a refreshing thing to see based off of yesterday's film study. Look at how quickly Patrick Queen is getting to the second level, okay? And the reason why that's important is because 70, Leatherwood, who is an NFL-level offensive lineman, is trying to get to the second level here to Patrick Queen. But notice he couldn't get there because Queen beat him to this C gap where he needed to be. And Rashard Lawrence did a good job not only on this ram call to really get into this B gap, but also get a piece of Leatherwood so he couldn't work to the next level. 73 is pulling right here, so let's go ahead and get this thing going. And notice they actually get some decent push, but Rashard Lawrence does a good job fighting this, keeping Patrick Queen free. But really, where this play is made is, you notice Najee Harris does a great job reading that this is where the hole is going to be. But where the play is made is based off the analysis we did yesterday with Andre Anthony, who is the contained defender on the play side, along with Jacoby Stevens, who was a contained defender all the way over here. Notice right when K'Lavon Chaisson sees that Najee Harris is going to go through this gap to the inside of him, after keeping contained, he two-gaps this, okay? He fights back inside to help with the C gap. And you see he fights off that block, and look at how quickly, I mean, this is insane. Look at how quickly Chaisson gets there, and boom, right there. And he holds him up, perfect time. And you're looking at a different angle of it because it's a clearer view. Obviously, we're watching a recording of me recording of Dave Aranda on a recording on a projector, if that makes sense. So the footage isn't absolutely great, but you notice right here, we get him for a yard, and then 73 and Najee Harris, they are monsters. So here we go. This is the broadcast angle. So this is what you can see, and we're going to go side by side, second by second of this play. So once again, trips right. Running back's actually in the pistol here. Running back is to the right side, and the tight end, of course, is in a 3-point stance here and a 2-point stance here. But other than that, very similar formation, exact same hash, exact same yard line, and you notice how different how this play is going to roll out. And honestly, the bottom line here is that they scored a touchdown here. We, for those that don't remember, we were able to make the stop, of course, and get the forced fumble on Tua on the first drive of the game. Last season, LSU needlessly put too many defenders into the box. Florida took full advantage of it, and what made it even sadder was Florida can't run the football traditionally. It makes a little more sense against a team like Alabama, who traditionally runs the football. We'll get to that with Florida, but even then, as this play shows you, you don't have to commit all these guys to the box, because with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in the box, 6-ish, but really only 5 guys in this tight box, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you want to include Jabril Cox, 7 guys. And Cox is actually closer to this play than what Jacob Phillips was to this play. But you notice we have layers to this defense. And we're going to show you why that's important in just a second. So here's slide number 2, a few seconds after the handoff was given, okay? Obviously, it's going to be a little different here because he was in the pistol, so that's why he's a half a step behind here. But essentially, the same point of this play, okay? Now, you notice the differences here. We're getting sealed inside. Our defensive tackle, as you saw from the other angle, jumps inside, and we're getting sealed. And look at how big this hole is, right? And you notice, At the same exact time, Chason, his football IQ is insane, he saw that this was going underneath him, and he two-gapped it the entire time. You notice he attacked this tackle who's bigger than him, stronger than him, but he took it to him, fought back inside, and actually made this tackle. Whereas last season, we taught our defensive ends to just one gap instead of two gap. Fire up as hard as you can up the field, and we get sealed off to the inside here. And because we're not two-gapping our run fits here, it's an easy play. Now, Anthony might have just been firing off to rush the passer. It's hard to tell, and it's hard to know techniques. So, as we always say with our film studies, we never really know. But this is a key thing I want to bring up, and this is a point we've made a lot in live streams. You notice here, and it's kind of hard because it is just a still image, but you notice that he's not running full speed. You notice he's having to stop, and we showed you just a second ago him having to cut. We don't want running backs, especially Najee freaking Harris, to be running full speed. You notice he was able to just plant and go. This was not hard. A lot of running backs would have scored on this play. Najee, of course, makes it a lot easier. We want to make their runners work. And you notice how hard we're fighting. Patrick Queen was able to fire over the top, fill this C gap. So Najee Harris reads that and tries to cut back. And while he's trying to cut back, because our backside in, our play side in, was able to two-gap it, we were able to fight back to the inside. And you notice here, we're not two-gapping either one of these guys. We're not seeing guys fight back to the inside when the play is clearly going to the inside. Because our defensive tackles didn't hold this guard up, we're able to get sealed right here. This is a lot different. 65, basically the same exact guy. He's pulling here, though. Look at all this traffic he's got to go through. Notice how hard it is for him to get to this next level, to pull and kick out and do whatever. And that is very key. So our run fits, our guys are two-gapping, they're slanting, they're doing all these different things to cause chaos right here. And then we get to the final slide here, and this is the most important slide. The finish. Look at Chason just taking it to him. And basically, this is the same exact point. Because it was such a clean hole to run through, he just runs by. Look at our fills right here. We got guys finding. We got Jacob Phillips coming from the backside. But this is why Jacoby Stevens, who is at the line of scrimmage, Miller Forrestall, the tight end, is blowing him out of the sideline, basically. If he would have just been right here, he would have been able to help out on the run. But because he was at the line of scrimmage, it's just an easy kickoff, and Stevenson didn't do a good job fighting back inside. So just in case this play would have gone through, we would have had Derek Stingley right here to fill, and Jacoby Stevens playing a different role here in 2019 right here as well to help out with this. So you notice how different the run fits are. And obviously, you know, this is what my main point of today's video is going to be, because I like in these film studies not just to go back and talk about certain plays. We have to discuss what can we do to fix this. And based on what I learned from the full hour-long Dave Aranda seminar that I watched and what I saw here today, we have to get better on our run fits. And we need to fix one basic tenet. It is not true that when you commit more guys to the box, that it necessarily means you're going to stop the run. That is an archaic idea. And as you saw here, when we only had 4 guys in the box, or 5 guys in the box, we were able to stop the run. We had 7 guys in the box on this play, and it obviously didn't work out. And we're going to show you in an upcoming film study regarding the Florida game how much that actually hurt LSU in that Florida game. So we're going to discuss so many different things. Obviously, in the comment section, let me know what you think of today's film study. That was a lot of fun. Okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! We're doing tacos tonight. Let's go!